Hey everyone, welcome back to Easy Coding. Today we are going to start a new playlist that is DP-900. You all know that I have attended DP-900 exam last 2 months before and I have scored 900 in the DP-900 exam and I haven't got a chance to share all those questions and theory part with you. So I'll be doing that. It's a simple exam and I have prepared only 2 to 3 hours maximum. So I will be preparing all those details. Right now we are starting with the theory part and parallelly I will be uploading all the questions as well. So let's get started. So let's start the preparation for Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals. So these are the skills required to write the exam. You can read all those things. Let's directly move on to the details. The first one is data. So we all know what is data. So let us see what is data. Data is a collection of facts such as numbers, descriptions and observations used in decision making. So you can classify data. So we can classify data as the three, that is structured, semi-structured or unstructured. From the name itself we can identify structured means it will have some kind of structure, right? And semi-structured means it's a partially structured. And unstructured means there will not be any structure for the data. So let's see what is the examples of these each. And the first one is structured data. So it is typically tabular data. That means it's a tabular representation, tables, rows and columns. So that is an example of structured data. And the databases that hold tables in this form are called relational database. The mathematical term relation refers to an organized set of data held as a table. So structured data is which holds some kind of structure to the data. So it will be in the tabular format, that is by rows and columns in a database. And the database that hold tables in this form are called relational databases. So let's move on to the example, that is this one. Here you can see this is one table and this is another table. Here all the details are presented in a row and column wise format. So this is called structured data. Here you can see the customer ID, title, first name, middle name, last name, all those details. And in the other table as well, product ID and the product number, color, standard cost, all those details. So let's move on to the next one, that is semi-structured. So semi-structured means it's a partially structured. So data is information that doesn't reside in a relational database but still has some structure to it. So it will not be in any tabular format, that means in a column and row format, but it will have some kind of a structure. So let us see what are the example of semi-structured. So example include the JSON. JSON format is an example of semi-structured data. Here we can see document 1 and document 2. Here we have customer ID, name, address, all those details. Here as well we can see customer ID, name, address, all those details. So in the first document we can see the name is one child and address is one child. And in the next document as well, name is one child and the address is one child. But the elements which are coming in the child is different. That is based on the customer, the first, last. Here it is title, forename, last name. So some structure is similar. That is name, address in first document and name, address in the second one. So in both cases, each customer document includes child documents containing the name and address. But the field in this child document vary between customers. Yeah, we saw that in name we have first and last, but in the second document we have title, forename and last name. And there are other type of semi-structured data as well. Yeah, there is different semi-structured data example. One is JSON and the other one is key value stores and graph databases. And a key value database stores associative arrays. In those arrays, a key serves a unique identifier to retrieve a specific value. Those values can be anything from a number or a string to a complex object like a JSON file. So, but for each key, there will be some kind of data. So, each data is uniquely identified by one key. That is a unique identifier, which is the key. So let's move on to the next point, that is a key value database stores data as a single collection without structure or relation. That makes them different to a relational database where the tables are made up of rows and columns with the predicted data types. So this is an example. And let's move on to the next one, that is You can use a graph database to store and query information about complex relationships. A graph contains nodes and edges. Nodes means information about objects and edges means information about the relationship between objects. So this is an example of a graph database. So this is the example of graph database, which is a semi-structured one. So you have to remember all these points, the examples of structured, semi-structured, and one more is there, that is unstructured. So let us see what is that. Not all data is structured or even semi-structured. For example, audio and video files and binary data files might not have a specific structure. So they are referred to as unstructured data. So you have to remember this point as well. Unstructured data and the examples. So let us move on to the next section, that is how is data defined, stored and accessed in cloud computing. So depending on the type of data such as structured, semi-structured or unstructured, data will be stored differently. Yeah, that's definitely because data will be in different format, right? Based on that, we have to use different kind of mechanism to store such type of data. So structured data is typically stored in a relational database such as SQL Server or Azure SQL database. Azure SQL database is a service that runs in the cloud. So structured data is stored in a SQL Server or Azure SQL database. You can use it to create and access relational tables. The service is managed and run by Azure. You can just specify that you want a database server to be created. The act of setting up the database server is called provisioning. So act of setting up database server is called provisioning. And after your service is provisioned, the service needs to be configured so that user can be given access to the data. You can typically define several levels of access. For users, different kind of access, different levels of access is there. So we will see what are that. The first one is read-only access, means that user can read data but can't modify any existing data or create new data. Suppose we have one set of data and we have to set some access level as read-only access. The customers can just read that data. They cannot edit or modify that. So in that case, we will use the read-only access. And the next one is read-write access. That is, gives user the ability to view and modify existing data. Suppose if a system administrator or the person who modifies this kind of data, so that person should have the read and write access. Then only they can modify the data, right? So that is read-write access. And owner privilege gives full access to the data, including managing the security like adding new users and removing access to existing users. So these are the three access levels: read-only access, read-write access and owner privilege access. If the data is sensitive or secret, you may want to restrict access to a few select users. So let's move on to the next topic, that is what is a transactional system. So a transactional system records transactions. A transaction could be financial, such as the movement of money between accounts in banking system, just like a normal banking transaction. Or it might be a part of a retail system, tracking payments for goods and service from customers. Think of a transaction as a small discrete unit of work. So transaction is a small discrete unit of work. And the transactional system are often high volume, sometimes handling many millions of transactions in a single day. The data being processed has to be accessible very quickly. The work performed by transactional systems is often referred to as online transactional processing, that is OLTP. So the work performed by transactional system is referred to as an OLTP, that is online transaction processing. To support fast processing, the data in a transactional system is often divided into small pieces. So splitting tables out into separate groups of columns and this is called normalization. Normalization can enable a transactional system to cache much of the information required to perform transactions in memory and speed and throughput. While normalization enables fast throughput for transactions and it can make querying more complex. Queries involving normalized tables will frequently need to join the data held across several tables back together again. This can make it difficult for business users who might need to examine the data. And next one is what is an analytical system. An analytical system is designed to support business users who need to query data and gain a big picture view of the information held in a database. Analytical systems are concerned with capturing raw data and using it to generate insights. An organization can use the insight to make business decisions. So let us see the example. This is from here you can see this is a repository database, and from critical device data, financial transaction, point of sale data, from here we are getting data to the database, and it is here we are making data transformations and cleaned and transformed data, and we can present it in a visualization, that is a Power BI or in the queries format. So let us see the steps. That is, first one is data ingestion. That is, data ingestion is the process of capturing the raw data. So process of capturing the raw data, that is from here we are capturing the raw data to the database. So that is data ingestion. So the next one is data transformation or data processing. Here data transformation or data processing. The raw data might not be in format that is suitable for querying. So for example, dates or address might need to be converted into a standard format. So that formatting is happening in the data transformation or data processing. And the next step is data querying. After data is ingested and transformed, you can query the data to analyze it. The next one is data visualization. Data represented in tables such as rows and columns or as documents aren't always intuitive. So visually the data can often be useful as a tool or examining data. You can generate charts such as bar charts, line charts, plot result on geographical maps, pie charts, or illustrate how data changes over time. We can use Power BI tools for data visualization. So that's all about today's session. We have covered part 1 of the DP-900 exam. So if you have any queries, please feel free to comment in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed my channel, please care to subscribe for latest updates.